Hello everyone, Jeff the Green Review. Today we're talking about frosted houseplants. Plants that are native to northern areas protect themselves from the cold by going dormant, dropping leaves. The top may die all the way back down to the ground, or they may produce seeds and let the whole plant die. The plant parts that are still alive in the cold lose water and produce more sugars to use as kind of an antifreeze. Tropical plants can't do any of that. Some are hardy to the 40s and 50s, some to a slight short frost, and some might have different parts that will die if there's a frost and other parts that stay alive. I've got a whole bunch of different frosted houseplants here, and I want to use them as examples to show you what you can look for on your plants when they have a frost to see what treatment you might need to do to keep them alive and keep them growing. So let's look at these plants one at a time. The first group are plants that have woody stems or at least a trunk that has leaves growing off the sides. So the first one we have here is a poinsettia. And poinsettias are native to Mexico and Central America in higher mountainous areas, so they can survive somewhat of cooler temperatures than some of our other tropical plants. Now in this case, this side of the pot was more exposed to the cold. And this could be from being in a screen porch, it could be on a regular porch, it could be that this side was up against the wall of a building. Whatever it is, the one side got frosted. What we look for here is we see all these damaged leaves and we can pull them off, and we can look at the stem or the trunk on the different plants, and this one looks completely normal and like nothing's happened to it. So in that case, there's buds at every place there was a leaf, and we might get some new growth. Even the tip bud on this one looks like it's in good shape. If the tip bud is frozen, then that will release the rest of the buds from dormancy. If the trunk area at some point is damaged where it can't grow, then the rest of the buds, even if they grow, are not going to survive. So take the dead leaves off and take a look to see what the branches look like. In this case, this is a citrus plant that was exposed to cold weeks ago, and you can already see new growth. There are 3 new branches here and 2 new branches here that are coming from those buds where there used to be leaves. So when you have a plant that's got some frost damage, you may be actually beneficial later on because the plant may be a lot bushier and grow a lot nicer form when it's coming out of the frost. So just because it's got a frost doesn't mean you have to worry about it too much. On this rubber tree plant, you can see we had a lot of damage here. Now there's different types of leaves on plants. This Dieffenbachia has softer leaves than the rubber tree, and so there's more damage showing up on the plant. The poinsettia has even softer leaves. The softer, more flexible the leaf, the more likely it's going to be damaged with a frost. A lot of times on a thicker leaf like this, you'll see frost damage around the edges and not over the entire plant. I'm sorry, over the entire leaf right off the bat. Now they will eventually turn brown completely, but the initial damage might be just on the edge. In this case, we have long branches. I had to put the pot way over there. And so now there's long sections of stem with no leaves. And this is a plant now that's kind of ready to go to do some pruning and taking these longer tips at the end here and making cuttings. And so that by pruning this plant back, we can have a denser plant on the original plant and some new plants out here. So again, the frost may have given us the reason to do something else with our plant that is even better in the future. Now this Dieffenbachia doesn't have woody trunks, but it does have trunks that are thicker and not as tender as the leaves. And so in this case, even though the leaves are in bad shape, a lot of these need to come off. Then we will see how well the stems do. There is some damage on here from the frost, so there are some plant parts that probably aren't going to make it, even though it looks okay right now. So the first thing you do on these plants is this assessment. The second thing is go ahead and take off all the dead leaves. You've got a whole bunch of dead leaves here. They're obviously not going to make it. So you prune off the dead leaves, and that'll help you get a start to see what the recovery process is. If there's leaves that are partly damaged like this one, go ahead and trim off. Scissors is better. trim off the dead areas, trim off the dead edges here, and once you do that, you'll see if the plant looks okay and you want to keep it. But at the same time, you'll be able to see if there's any continuation of the damage. And so the plant may look fine at the beginning after you've done that trimming, but then you may find out that there was damage to the trunk lower down. And so if it continues wilting, if it continues dying, then you've had frost damage deeper into the plant than when you first looked at it. So now let's go to the next group of plants. The next group of tropical plants grow from rhizomes and crowns. And so they don't have big, long trunks. They are just coming out of the ground kind of bushy. And they may spread in the pot or down the sides of the pot. And so what we're looking for here is usually leaf damage. Sometimes the plant has the crowns or rhizomes damaged if the pot is raised or the frost can get in from the sides. And then you might have more damage. But usually what you'll see is frost damage on the leaves. And again, it can be kind of scattered depending on how long the frost was. Like in this spathiphyllum, you see that this leaf is completely black and the one underneath it is black, but the ones next to it are just wilty. This one's got a little black trim and these are still green, but they're a little wilty. On the spider plant, the main plant is doing well, but the babies are clearly frosted. They were hanging out into the cold, not coming from the pot. And on the ferns, a lot of times you'll see just dieback in the center and it'll be underneath and you'll see lots of leaf fall, but also you'll see real good frost damage. It looks like they've been frosted and frozen in the refrigerator, like frozen lettuce. They just turn black and they look really bad that way. Now another plant here, this one is a canna, and this one has rhizomes. You can see the horizontal stem that's growing underground. I've washed off the roots here. And so the branch and the stems are in good shape coming out of the ground. But the leaves are frosted. Now this looks like a trunk, but these are actually just the base of the leaves. There is no stem tissue here. So you can cut these leaves off, clear back at the base of the leaf, and get rid of the entire top here, and then keep this in a cool place in a paper bag and then replant it in the spring. So that's one of the damaged things that we see on plants that are just getting a light frost or cooler temperatures in the 40s and 50s is wilting. And that wilting they'll recover from if you give them some water. So what we want to do on these plants is keep them in normal temperatures, what they're supposed to be in. We want to give them a little bit of water and not overwater them, depending on what size the plant was. You may now have a smaller plant that you have to water less than what you would have. And we don't fertilize them for a couple reasons. One is the fertilizer may damage roots that are already damaged from frost, but we haven't found that we haven't taken them out of the pot to look. And then the plant we don't want to fertilize it because we don't want it to grow in the wintertime. We're looking at the long season here of kind of a slow growth time for the tropical plants, less light and shorter days, so we don't want to fertilize them immediately. And if you did fertilize and then the plant continues dying, then you've wasted your fertilizer and you've got some contaminated soil now that you can't really reuse as well because now you've got a bunch of fertilizer mixed into it. So that's all there is to treating frosted houseplants. We're going to cut off the dead. We're going to water and watch the plants and see how well they recover. And if they continue recovering, that's great. If they have woody branches, we're going to watch to see if we get new growth coming off the stems and the branches. Where there used to be leaves, there's buds that now can grow. And so we may end up with an even better plant in the future. I do have a real short 3-minute video talking about frost. It's in the Plants in the Environment playlist, and I'll put a link here and then down in the description. It's a nice little video that talks about different kinds of frost and how they affect plants. Thanks for staying until the end for this bonus tip. You can harm and you can kill tropical houseplants in the wintertime when you buy them in the store, take them home in the car, and then take them into the house. If you don't protect them, they can be exposed to below freezing temperatures that will damage some leaves or completely kill the entire plant. At the very least, when you leave the store, it needs to be in a sleeve. A lot of plastic sleeves have holes in them for ventilation. They don't do very good. You need the paper sleeve stapled shut at the top. Don't go shopping with the plant in the car in the paper sleeve. I have video of spath films like this that were in the car too long like that, and instead of just having black leaves, they are completely crispy, crunchy. You don't want to have crunchy leaves on your plants, so take them directly home. Go to the nursery as the last step on your shopping trip and take the plants directly home and keep them warm. Put them into a warm car that's ready to go. And this is Jeff for the Green Review.